This is Jordan Edwards, and this is the Business Jiu-Jitsu Podcast.
Will Harris.
What's up, brother?
How you doing?
Good, man. I can't complain, man. Out here in sunny Florida, can't complain.
Where exactly in Florida?
In Fort Lauderdale. So I'm right on the water. I can't complain about those views. So just moved here from Los Angeles last week. I had to get out of California, and we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into that. You have a very interesting perspective on it, and I'm very excited to dig into that. But let me just set up exactly who you are for the very few people who might watch this who don't know. You are the most, if not the best, and most prolific MMA documentarian working today. You're completely independent, although you wouldn't know that from, number one, the quality of the work, the access, and the relationships that you've built over the past few years since you launched your YouTube channel and project Anatomy of a Fighter, which has chronicled the best of the best of the best in mixed martial arts across all different organizations, but most notably the come up of Khabib. And to say that you were there on the come up and the rise would be the understatement of the century. You have seen so many fighters go from in some cases, obscurity to superstardom. But I think when you really started to hit traction was when you went to Dagestan and you followed Khabib and his father and their whole crew on the rise to becoming a champion, all the way up to not this past Fight Island, but the previous Fight Island. So, and then you and I came together after you were featured on the Joe Rogan podcast, which was a pivotal moment in any creator, filmmaker, business person's life to get tapped on the shoulder that way. And he had the same thoughts that we all had. It's like, who is this Anatomy of a Fighter, and how are they making this incredible content and getting it out so fast? Everyone thought that you worked for the UFC or that you had some kind of special access. But, the thing that I'm so excited to talk to you about today is about the bank account of life and how you've done the right thing by people and doors open when you do what you said. So how did you get into filmmaking?
By accident. I was in college, headed into my sophomore year, and I tore my ACL. And going into that year, I had family members, close people that kind of was pushing me towards, this was the last year of college. You should try to go to the NBA, play pro basketball after this year, because I just felt I was that good, and they thought that. People that was already at that level. So I think like a week later after that confirmation, I tore my ACL. It was like the universe was like, nah, not so fast. And I went back to college, medically red-shirted because I got hurt at home. And honestly, as the season was progressing, I was depressed. So I had nothing to do. I'm not a video game guy or nothing like that. So I bought a camera. And I bought a camera just to have fun with. But I would probably say after the first week of having it, I naturally just found another passion. And I knew that I was going to be sitting out the entire year. But my coach, who's the head coach of University of Auburn right now, Bruce Pearl, he let me travel with the team. He said, I don't want you to just be red-shirting and sitting at home, because that is depressing. And a lot of college students leave college that way because they feel like they have nothing to do. So he let me travel with the team. And once I started doing it, I took the camera along. So, it wasn't creative. I just filmed everything. I filmed stuff on the bus. I filmed the guys in hotel rooms, us going out to eat, walking down the street downtown, wherever we would stand. And then I used to take it to college parties and just film everything. I think back then the popular DVD was Girls Gone Wild. and I wanted to be that type of guy, filming everything. And honestly, the thing that I noticed immediately was the camera had power. It got you attention for you being behind this object, but people noticed it. Yeah. And I felt like I don't want to be in front of the camera. I'd rather be behind it. So my humanities professor told me, you should take an intro to film 101 class next semester because I think you'll like it. I did that. I started to learn the jargon and the real things behind what makes film. And I was just floored, and I was just like, this is what I want to do. And I finished my major in business administration, and I had to take another major because I was a fifth year senior. So I switched. I did my second degree in film, and that's how it started. Like literally, it was me tearing my ACL and had nothing to do, and I picked up a camera. That's how it started.
Unbelievable.
Crazy, right?
It is crazy. Not only is it crazy, you have such a crazier story than that on your path and trajectory, and you did a really good job chronicling that on Rogan Experience. So instead of digging into the whole thing there, I would point people to go in the direction of talking, go in and listen to that Joe Rogan podcast. Do you find it crazy that millions of people have watched the podcast and the clips and all that's come off of it? Isn't it amazing that some of your stories that they made into clips have garnered millions of views, 5 million views?
Honestly it's weird because obviously when a platform like that, I was like, you don't know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But honestly, I was a fan of Joe Rogan because of all the crazy shit that people talk about.
Yeah.
So when I went on there, I didn't plan any of it. It just naturally came out. He is the master of guiding you towards the direction. If you say something, he want to go in deeper. Honestly, to be honest about that was 0.8% of the craziest things that I could say. Like I've had a crazy life in a short amount of years, but I don't know. It's weird because you don't know the prowess of that podcast until you like go out into the real world and everybody know who you is. Like especially guys.
Yeah.
You wear hair. And it's so weird because when I created Anatomy of a Fighter, which got me onto the podcast, I created it because fighters wasn't getting promoted the right way or they wasn't getting enough promotion. And I just wanted to create something that I felt like I'm assisting in this grind of fighters by telling stories. And obviously I'm a storyteller and I wanted to. I didn't realize that it was going to get me so popular that I end up on one of the most, if not the most popular podcasts in the world. And I wish that I did that for every fighter that catapult them on there, not just me. It wasn't never me wanting to get on there. But, Joe basically was like, nah, you deserve to come on here. People need to know who you is because no one never knew who was recording everything except everybody in the industry that kept seeing me. And even then they didn't know. So I don't know. I'm blessed. Honestly, it's a great opportunity. Obviously, it didn't help my career and my life tremendously. Just having a lot of eyeballs on you. And after that podcast, I think, I remember a point in a podcast where Joe asked me how many subscribers I had. And I was like, like 200. And, a year later, I'm at over 500,000. So it's like, it's crazy to think like I got 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. So it was pretty cool.
It's well deserved. So my dad, you've had the chance to film my dad, and you guys connected on some deep things. But this is something I wrote about my dad in his first book. They asked me to give his publisher asked me to give a testimonial. I wrote this. I said, my father is as comfortable entertaining a prime minister as he is speaking with a cab driver. I've been elbow to elbow with him as he negotiated with the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and I witnessed him inspire hundreds of my friends through his blog when there seemed like there was no hope during the Great Recession. What it all boils down to is my father loves business and loves his life. Although he never read the Stoics, he's a Stoic philosopher. Although he never attended business school, he's a student of business. I'm lucky to have my father as a mentor and coach. When he shared his simple philosophy through his blog, he had no idea it would inspire so many. Thank you, Dad, for having the courage to turn your blog into a book. And only after I met you did I realize like the parallels between you and my dad. And when I wrote that about my dad, you know, I had put a lot of pressure on him to turn his blog into a WordPress blog, only later to find out that you too had a WordPress.
That's so crazy, right? That's so crazy.
And, you know, what I admire about you so much is that whether you're on the Joe Rogan podcast or talking to a homeless person, or you're in the most intimate moment before a fighter is about to walk out into the biggest fight of his life, like you're the same guy. You know, like you embody that exact same trait that made my dad so successful. And when I was trying to think about, you know, what do we talk about on, you know, the Business Jiu-Jitsu podcast and trying to speak to young entrepreneurs and people who are on the come up, I just can't. And I've spoken about this to other people too. Like the bank account of life, how you treat people is everything, you know, and you got this incredible opportunity to expand your platform on Joe Rogan. But yeah, after how many years of just being such a great guy and having door after door after door open to you by doing the right thing by people and creating unbelievable content. So like, does that spark anything in you? Do you agree?
Yes, door after door, but a lot of doors close. You know, I always tell people that, and you see quotes like you're gonna reach 1,000 no's before 1,000 yes. Think about it. Remember the last time I met you, and I was talking about the camera that I wanted so bad. You know, it was funny because when I was on Rogan, I kept mentioning all I want is a camera. That's all I wanted. Because think about it. Some people want fame. Some people want money. Like that's what they desire, success. And I'm like, if I could get a brand new Arri Alexa movie camera, that is $1 billion to me because I know what I'm going to create off of that. I'm going to create my opportunity. That is my fishing pole, right? You teach me how to fish. No, give me a fishing pole and I will fish myself, right? Yep. And I remember people was like, camera. And to me, when I first started, especially the Anatomy of a Fighter, which was almost 4 years ago, the channel 3 years ago. If I was gonna think about anything I was gonna get in return from telling these stories, it was something like that. So now where I'm at with it, and it's a brand and a name, it's crazy because I think the fighters have accepted me as a brother, the women, the men, because they know I'm there for them. Yeah, I'm not there for any other reason. You see what I'm saying? I can't help it if I get popular because of my skill set, but I'm only there for the fighters. Yeah, I'm not a clickbaity type of guy, a title to get you to click, to get a lot of views. I don't care if I post. If I don't have anything meaningful to post, I'm not going to post anything. And that's where I'm at now because I feel like COVID has allowed me to diagnose and review every single thing I've done so I can take the next step. And I'm really calling this next resurgence, the next chapter, because I feel like I spent 3 years one way and it's like COVID is my halftime, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, let's take a step back. You know, what I used to do wrong and what am I doing right now? How can I change it and maximize it to the best of my abilities to actually help the sport? Because that's ultimately what I'm trying to do is help the sport. You know, UFC is the entity, ESPN, you know, that collaboration with the UFC. I just feel like I'm this guy on the sidelines that is making a lot of noise outside of the velvet ropes that can't get in Studio 64. Yeah. But if I get in, everybody gonna notice me. So I'm in Studio 64 now with no, you know, I'm sober, but I have my intentions clear, you know.
I love, you know, we caught up a couple months ago during COVID, and you were telling me that you were taking that pause to sharpen your skills, and you were talking to these unbelievable filmmakers and producers. And I was like, that's what everybody who's going to be incredibly successful, however you measure success, is. Some people sat on the couch. Some people played video games. Some people felt sorry for themselves. Yeah. And other people got to work. And that's what you were doing. You were sharpening your skills. You couldn't be out there filming and going to the gym, but
like a samurai. Because think about this. You can film every day, but you're not going to get better. Think about it. So for 3 years, every day I was grinding. I naturally have ability, but technically it was things that I could improve on. And I even knew that while I was filming. Right. My ability to color grade better and faster and like without using these templates and plugins that help you. I was like, no, I want to master everything I do. So after March, I filmed Khabib in Vegas. He was about to fight Tony the next month. So I'm thinking like my year is going to be set. Like I had this, I can't even say, but I had this huge documentary with this huge, famous, legendary fighter. I was going to get paid a lot of money to do, life-changing. Like, go buy me a Lamborghini and nobody can tell me anything because I still got a lot of money, right?
Yep.
All of that failed. So you can sit there and pout. No money is coming in. I'm not able to film anything because you're scared of COVID. You don't know what it is. I went back to college. I bugged the hell out of people that I follow or I look up to in the film world. People that are super successful, people that are known, and I bugged them. And maybe because I have a platform now, it's easier to get a hold of people, but they opened the doors and they gave me advice. I sent, things that I practiced on to them. They gave me critiques and I'm like, wow, I'm about to destroy this industry the next time I get into a flow of creativity. And it's like, yes, I missed out on a lot of opportunities. Obviously, this last week with my brother Khabib fighting, who knew it was going to be his last fight. Bummed about it, but I'm blessed because when I took a step back, I said, damn, I was there when his father was last there. I caught that moment. I could have not went to Abu Dhabi last year.
Yeah.
And I would have missed that whole heroic, historical event in Abu Dhabi with Khabib and his father. And it was the first time his father ever cornered him for a UFC fight. I feel like you could make a documentary off that.
Sure.
A father and his son, like something, so I feel like I've been blessed in that sense. And this break has really allowed me the time to really look at my life, even just internally, personally as a person, not just filmmaking. I'm getting older and I looked at it to a point where I was like, how can I become a better person? How can I become a better person in order for a woman to accept me as her husband or, the father of her children, like stuff like that. So I don't know, like, who knows? In 2 weeks, we might not, we might get back to the regular lives. I hope so, but I doubt it, but I hope so. So yeah, man, it's crazy this year, man.
Yeah, I think that, God, I do hope that we are here in a few weeks after the election. But so let's dive into that a little bit. You fled California. I think a lot of the industry fled California. The mixed martial arts industry went to Florida. I think that's one of the driving forces for the reason you going there. South Florida is already a hotbed of mixed martial arts. What does it feel like to have to leave a place that you love, that was central to your career?
Well, for one of the last 6 years, I lived here.
Yeah.
I moved to California to elevate my brand. If I would have never moved to California, there was no Joe Rogan podcast. Like, you have to be in the right spaces and places at the right time, just like I was with that dolly going through the bus. If it wasn't for me going with Kamaru Usman to Joe Rogan podcast and filming the behind the scenes, Joe would have never met me, and I wouldn't have been able to say, I'm Will Harris, I create Anatomy of a Fighter. And he like, wait a minute, you do that? That's behind the scenes. If I would have never did that, I never ended up on Joe Rogan. Think about that.
So,
that day he said, you have to come on to this podcast. You, seriously, several times. You got to come on multiple times because he just felt it was so fascinating that one guy, he saw himself a little bit. He like, we created this podcast with no help, and you're building this platform. You don't have like the sponsor backing you, putting money into you, and you're able to just go film fighters all over the world because you have money to do it. It was just like, you've done this all by yourself. And I think it was fascinating for him to see that. And I also think it's fascinating because I'm a black guy in the MMA world filming all of this. And if you know anything, mixed martial arts ain't a predominantly black sport like some sports. It's like predominantly worldwide, but it's not African-American.
Yeah.
Our community don't look at this sport like that.
Yeah.
Right. We don't care. Like, that's just how the pulse of our culture, I see that. I talk to people in my community and they don't even know shit about the sport. So I feel like LA blessed me in that. But this year's hit LA hard in terms of especially entrepreneurs, independent business owners, in the movie industry as a whole. My mentor, Anthony Mandler, who I look up to, and he's going to be one of my business partners in the future. He hadn't filmed all year, and he's one of the top guys in the industry, period. And when I saw that, I was like, man, when I have actor friends that haven't been on set or making any money this year, and then on top of that, everything is just closed. You know, you can't go to a movie theater, can't go to a gym, you can't go to an indoor restaurant. You know, like, I get the mask thing. In Florida, you still got to wear masks. You can take them off, but you still got to wear them.
Yeah.
So, you know, California, one of the highest states with taxes. You're just sitting in your house doing nothing, staring at walls. You kind of feel like, oh, I got to get out of here.
How does it feel being a black entrepreneur, filmmaker, avant-garde in an industry that is not, isn't surrounded by black people? And you have the dichotomy between being an entrepreneur and having to bust your ass and make money and then fall into a tax bracket and say, wait, I worked really hard for this. But then on the other hand, you have people who are struggling, and, if Biden gets elected and you live in California and you're paying now 63% of your money how does that feel?
That's scary. Imagine, I made this analogy the other day because what's his name? Jared Kushner or whatever his name is.
Yep.
He said some stupid shit about blacks gotta want to work. They have to be willing to want to be successful. Like they have to want to be successful for my stepfather's policies to work. It's easy to say that when you started on third base in life, right? And the analogy I came up with was some people start on first base, second base, third base. We talked about it in your documentary.
Sure. Just
because you're rich don't mean you're gonna be successful. You can fuck up in money that you get from your family, and
some people get thrown out on third, right?
Yes. Some people start out in the dugout. I started out in the bleachers, like snuck into the stadium and sat down in an empty seat. I always tell people, like, a lot of people don't know this, but my mom was 14 when she gave birth to me. My father was 14. I started out with horrible, like, your probability, if it was a chart, you're going to fail in life because you was born to two kids. I'm from a town called Carbondale, Illinois. It's 25,000 people population, 49% poverty rate. You don't make it out of that. And the thing that I got offended by with the Kushner was, just because you want to be successful or good at something don't mean it's going to happen. Opportunity needs to happen.
Yeah.
Just because I want to win an Oscar or be the best filmmaker doesn't mean it's going to happen. You got to have opportunity to show off your skill set, and it has to be great timing, and you have to be prepared. And I got lucky. I sprouted to 6'5" in the 8th grade, damn near. I was about 6'3", 6'4" in 9th grade. Yeah. And my athletic skills caught up to me quickly, and I was able to be one of the best athletes in my area, and it got me to a college for free. Everybody don't grow to be 6'5". And what I'm saying is, that's my circumstance. I'm from a small town. How do you get out of that? We all know that. White people, black people, Hispanic, whatever. Small towns, you usually grow up in your small town, or you move to the next big town over because it's a little bit bigger, and that's where you live.
Yeah.
I always wanted to get out of that circumstance, even when I was a kid, because I grew up around drug addicts, criminals, domestic violence, just poor circumstances for anybody. But I never, ever felt that that was me, where I was going to end up. Like, I always looked at it as, it's embarrassing. It's just like, I will never want to be like that. I'm not going to grow up to be like that. So if we fast forward to everything I've been able to endure, go to college, graduate college, go overseas, basketball journey, becoming depressed after basketball is over, to sleeping on my friends' couches, and for 2-3 years, not really figuring out what I want to do, start writing a blog, to finally looking in the mirror right when I was turning 30 to pick up a camera and do something. After a relationship failed, and I realized it probably failed because I had shit going on with my life, I couldn't offer anything. Yeah. Then when you get to a point where you're starting to be successful, then you get successful and you're making money, and you're making real money. Now all of a sudden they want to take your money. Now go back to starting at 14-year-old parents, and you make it out of all that. And now all of a sudden the government is like, congratulations, Jumanji level 15. Give me your money. Now start over. It was easy for me to say, Nevada, Texas, back to Florida. I'm going to one of them. And Joe was trying to convince me, get the hell out of California. Yeah. He was like, get the hell out of California. And I already, 4 months into COVID, I was like, I'm not filming any fighters. Florida is open. Every fighter is down there living a normal lives. I'm getting my ass back to Florida. And it was an easy decision. I came here a month ago, looked at properties, and made a decision to come back. So yeah, I'm happy to leave California. Listen, I love California. It's a different type of life there. But I'm very, I'm very, into the homeless crisis and stuff like that. And it's the worst I ever seen in California.
Yeah.
It's sad to where I keep my radar on it, and how many billions they say they're investing into improving homelessness in California. They're not doing anything. So, I'm the type of person, the last time I left California, last year, it was because I lived in a fancy high-rise downtown, and I used to come out and see people sleeping on the ground. It wasn't because I was like, I got to get out of this area. It's like, no, it's sad. I'm from a place that's very poor. I don't feel comfortable like going into my high-rise and my valet guy when it's homeless people sleeping outside your building. Like, that's sad. It's like, I don't want to live in a city that represents that. Like, let people live like that.
Yeah. Well, I was saying before, when I was comparing you to my father, and I had briefly mentioned that, some of your film work has been around sitting and talking to homeless people, and some of your writing, and you are not one of the people who pretends it doesn't exist and doesn't see it and turns a blind eye or doesn't feel like they could do anything. You've gone out of your way to tell these stories as well. The story of the homeless person, and just wanting to know what they're all about, and sitting next to them, for hours and talking. And I think that, that's one of the things that makes you different. And I give my dad the same credit on that, which is, my dad, of course, first base. I mean, first of all, if you speak the English language, you have enough, you have a little up, versus an immigrant crossing the border illegally to get here.
Yeah.
Everything can be a slight advantage. You said your height, your athletic ability, slight advantage. But I was so impressed when I learned that about you, about your compassion and your empathy, and also your acknowledgement of being like, wait a second, is taxing us, is that the answer? I mean, I don't believe it's the answer.
No.
I think that there's ways to solve it, and I think that what your approach was a far better approach than saying, more taxes, more programs, more things. How about the creatives, being empowered? How about telling these stories to get other people like me excited about wanting to be able to help?
Yes.
I think that that's so much more. I think that, the government is less powerful than the people if you empower the people to make decisions. If you lock us down and drive us out of the states that we love and stifle creativity, then nothing good happens. And look, California lost you. They lost Joe. How many more people do they have to
So many that left.
It's an exodus. It's a true exodus.
Yeah, it really is. It's a mass exodus, just like it is in New York.
Yeah. And what you were saying about the technical side of filmmaking that you've been studying, that's how I feel about business and jiu-jitsu. There is the technical side. I was never blessed with any athletic gifts. Everything about my jiu-jitsu and my business, for that matter of fact, was about becoming technically really good, about the timing, about the philosophy, about having the right mindset, because I just wasn't blessed with physical gifts in business or in jiu-jitsu. I was blessed with the ability to think strategically, but I had a hard time running a mile or running 2 miles. In business, my dad can calculate complicated math in his head. I didn't have that ability. So I had to go and I had to learn the crafts. And there is a skill set to running organizations and growing big businesses. And I'm seeing the mismanagement of that in our governments in some of our states like New York and California. You gave me one of the most incredible gifts any human being has ever even come close to giving me, which was documenting the release of my book with my father, This Is It. And when you did that documentary, you captured moments for my family that we never could have imagined would have gotten on film in a day. Flew in and flew out. It was crazy. And one of the things that you captured so beautifully was me living in New York City, getting up early, going for a run, going to jiu-jitsu, working all day. And at that moment when we filmed, I thought I was going to be living in New York City for the rest of my life, most likely. And now that's not an option. It's crazy.
It is weird how we did that. We showed a person trying to build a better life for his family, like in New York City, and then a year later, that type of life don't exist in the city right now.
No, it's done. And
it's like that's what I mean by perfect timing. We did it. It's so weird, like thinking about what you and your father talked about, and then the book itself, and then it's happened. Because after I talked to you guys and read the book, and I told you, like, oh, I'm gonna grind, I'm gonna get this camera. Like, I was so motivated, I went and got it.
Yeah.
A couple months later, it was just like, no excuses. No excuses. Hammer it on, get it. After that, I paid off my student loans. It was like $25,000 because I was like, I need to get that dark cloud up over my head. Every time I see my credit report is right there. So in 1 month, I spent like $80,000 and went broke.
Yeah.
I maybe had like 10 grand left. And that's not a lot of money when your rent is $4,000. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But I invested in myself and I believed in the process. And when I think about now, like, honestly, I wish I could just like do a reverse and just do that whole documentary over. And it's timing. And that's the reason why I'm excited about the next thing we do, because I feel like I'm 100 times better than last time. Yeah. So it's like, it's the maturation of life. It's like you said, you have a choice how you're going to come out of this thing, right?
Yeah.
One day they're going to just say, all right, the world is open back up, go live your lives. How did you survive out of that? 7-8 months, I wasn't able to train or work out. That's why I'm back here in Florida. I'm doing 2 a days, 3 a days. I'm doing 15-minute hit classes downstairs in my building. Yeah. I'm going right after this. It's like I'm going to go to Target and do another hit class.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just got to grind. You got to endure this. Just like those people that I see on the streets, begging on the streets to make $1 to eat and things like that. It's like, some people are blessed. Some people had enough in their stash to, endure all of this, or they was able to qualify for the PPP loans, and and it's a lot of that going on.
Sure.
I wish I knew how to scam people, because there's a lot of stories that I saw where people were getting $2-3 million for having 5 daycares. I'm thinking like, where is this? Like, you got dreads in your head. You don't know how to
You and I talked about that, and as it pertained to my book, and my first book, not the one I'm writing now, but when This Is It, one of the things my dad and I talk about and preach is doing things the right way, doing things the ethical way, building your business in a sustainable way, because that way, when something like COVID happens, if you were on the brink of going out of business because you didn't run it properly, you're done. There's already been 155,000 small businesses never coming back. Gyms, martial arts studios, daycare centers, restaurants, haircutting, never coming back.
No.
The thing about the PPP and the EIDL money that went out there was you were only able to get that money if your business reported taxes properly, hired and paid people on the books, had a good track record of paying your rent. You weren't eligible for the money. So I have, as you know, I have properties all over the country. I have about 400 tenants, all office and retail tenants mostly. And some of the businesses got the money right away because they were legitimate businesses that had paid legitimate taxes and filed all the paperwork properly. And then other businesses that always kind of did things a little shady, took it exactly the gray area. They weren't eligible for the first round. They might be eligible for the second round of stimulus, but they weren't eligible for the first round because, and that story really doesn't get told all that much because it's a hard story to tell. It's a hard story to look at somebody, one of those businesses that went out and said, listen, I'm sorry, but you didn't do it the right way all those years. And it goes back to the story of the three little pigs: straw house, wood house, brick house. And so my heart breaks for a lot of the people who lost their businesses because they just, like you said, they just didn't know. They weren't empowered with the information.
No, it's you can't predict. I mean, I think it's 7 out of 10 Americans are one paycheck from being homeless. So I think it was, I don't know if this is accurate. I don't have a Jamie to look it up, but it was a 70%, 60%, something like that, don't have $400 in their bank account right now. It was something.
Yeah,
like
the quote is, let's see if I could pull it up. Just 40% of Americans are able to cover an unexpected $1,000 expense, such as an emergency room visit or car repair, with their savings, according to a survey from Personal Financial Bank Rate. So this is from CNBC. But you're quoting a widely, this is a widely quoted subject, which is that.
And that was 2019. So now.
Oh yes, I can't even imagine that.
Most Americans got $1,200.
Yeah.
And trillions of dollars went out, and only Americans got a $1,200 check. I got friends in Toronto that was getting $2,000 every 2 weeks from their government.
Yep.
They also pay a ridiculous amount of tax. I get that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, how can anybody survive off $1,200? If you had kids or something, I think you got a little bit more, but most people got $1,200. I even got it. I didn't even think I qualified for it until I knew one of my friends that played pro basketball and he make a lot of money. He even got one. Then I looked in the mail one day and saw the check, and I was just like, dang, okay. They are giving out these little $1,200 things. But then it was like, where the other round? It was supposed to be another round to help people.
That's what's in the news every day.
It's not. We got a week. We less than a week to the election now. So
it's insane. Very interesting to see.
It's gonna be crazy.
Well, I want to just ask you one more thing before we finish this up, and it's on the subject of Khabib and filming in the gym with him, filming those moments with his father, being in Dagestan with them, being in Abu Dhabi with them, being here in the U.S. with them, all over the place. You were capturing those moments on the rise. You saw the greatness. You knew what was coming. What is it about Khabib that is so different from other people when you're with him?
His faith. It's that simple. Realistically, man, most people don't believe in anything. They say that to save face publicly, or they do it to get some type of favor. But religion is lost upon a lot of people these days. And what I mean by that is a faith value system, a structure that they live by to make them better people. I mean, I see videos every day from the left and the right to the moderate. Ugliness in our country, ugliness. I'm seeing, Republicans, Democrats tear each other heads off, but they claim to be good Christians. You look at the barbaric nature of, other religions, Islamic religions around the world, or their ideology is based on that, and they commit these crimes and make a religion as a whole look bad. But we don't look at the good people, the good Christians. We don't look at the good Muslims. And I'm pretty sure Khabib is not a perfect person, because no one is, but he's a great person that represents his faith. And it's just like Ali. Muhammad Ali was not a perfect person, but he had this bond with his religion that made him indestructible mentally. And I feel like Khabib, number one, his father, you have that in your corner, and the cornerstone of your faith makes you feel invincible. And I think Justin Gaethje said something last week where he was like, this guy, I don't know if he believes it, but a lot of people, he has a lot of yes men. A lot of people that makes him feel a certain way. And I hope he doesn't believe that. And I kind of want to challenge and see if I see that in him. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, I love you, Justin. You just don't understand. Like, this guy's faith is everything. And he has a lot of eyeballs on him. And I just feel like if I was going to ever want to learn about another culture, another religion, you look at people like that, and I feel like that's what makes him a better person than a fighter. Like, what I mean? Fighting, the fighter is cool, but it's to him as a person that makes you just respect him. Like, it's just a certain amount of respect because you know that he lives by a certain code, and he ain't going to break that code. Yeah, he's not going to break it. And we live in a society over here in the West where you use religion for your own advantage. You pull the Bible out to get some votes, or to, impress a girl if she only dates people that believe in Jesus. So it's like, that's it, man. Honestly, it's very inspirational to see someone tied to his faith that much.
I think
when you don't see
perfect encapsulation, and you really did an amazing job over these past few years, capturing a whole different side of Islam that the world was really turned on to by Khabib. He became a worldwide sensation because of how principled he was, and how dominant and how kind he could be. The love of his family and his teammates, and those so many intimate moments that you really were the first one to bring to life. Dagestani basketball, or being in the house for Eid al-Mubarak. Am I saying that properly?
Yeah, Eid Mubarak.
You caught those moments in their house, the hospitality that they showed you, and just I really commend you and thank you for so much incredible content. I mean, it's just mind-blowing, the roster of people who have put their trust in you to share moments. From how many champions now? I mean, Usman and Khabib, Rashid, I mean, it's wild, and that's so many. There's great, and so many people on the come up. Sugar Shane in the early days, and you got really doing a great job. So thank you so much for coming into my life and helping tell our family's story too, and being a part of this new book that I'm writing, Business Jiu-Jitsu. I think going to give you some really great things for me to think about today. And I can't wait to hear it with you.
I appreciate it, man. It's an honor always, and I look forward to seeing you and your dad again, and seeing how big your son is.
Yeah, growing up.
And let's make some magic next time.
Yep, I'm gonna see you in just a few short weeks down in Florida for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, all right, brother.
Good to see you.